Togo, 2 journalists convicted and wanted by arrest warrant. What about our predators in power? This unique condemnation, which is only the epilogue of a long fervour on independent journalists who only do the work of investigation on the flaws of the country's scandalous governance, also indicates the level of cruelty of those who, despite the mysterious death, almost a year to the day, of one of their prey, in this case the late Joliga, publishing director of the newspaper Fraternite, did not have the decency to end their hunt against journalists, Ferdinand, Isidore and Joel. The alternative editorial, the 16th of March, 2023, the new law on the press, DasSchriftleitergesetz, passed on the 4th of October, 1933 by the Nazi government, in Germany, and entered into force on the 1st of January, 1934, ended up giving a blow to the freedom of the press, synonymous with its abolition. Approximately 1,300 journalists lost their jobs and many went into exile. The rest of the story, everyone knows, the Second World War of 1939 to 1945 and Adolf Hitler who, in despair, the Allies who had occupied Berlin, committed suicide in his bunker on the 30th of April, 1945. From press update in Hitler's Germany to today 85 years ago, and we're living in 2023, in the middle of the 21st century, in a small West African country, Togo, and in this country that has been ruled for more than half a century by a military clanic dictatorship, it is blowing like an air of great danger to the freedom of the press. Comparison is not right, they say, but the manner in which Nazis officials had proceeded to consolidate their dictatorship by abolishing, among other things, the freedom of the press, seems oddly similar to what is happening in Togo today. No new law here to coax the press and force critical journalists to comply. If they don't want to end up in jail, lock them under the doormat over fancy unjustified fines, or go to exile. Instrumental justice and a supposed high authority for the audiovisual and communication, HAC, squarely next to the plate when it comes to its role, are there to come to the rescue of a dead regime, allergic to criticism and the manifestation of the truth. It's well known, Hoover wants to drown his cat, accuse him of rabies, a saying widely used in Togo as inspiration to silence dissenting voices, oppositionists, serious civil society actors and journalists calling out the regime's abuses and violations. 2 journalists who were only doing their jobs as it is in many civilized countries around the world, are harassed and persecuted to their last breaths, only to be forced into underground or exile. The circumstances that led Ferdinand and Isidore Joel, now, respectively director of publication and editor-in-chief of the bi-weekly magazine L'Alternative, to go exile to save their skin, conclude that we are dealing with an abuse of power, the use of the reason of the strongest, a shameful practice of a regime that has nothing to do with the law. Yes, the law, since we are in it, even though the specialists in the field we have contacted confirm that a file in the judicial circuit, not yet closed, could be resurrected at any moment. We wonder, however, what is the relevance and especially what is the interest for 2 ministers of government, allegedly slandered, to reactivate a case almost 2 years old, for which the accused journalists apologized publicly. What was asked of them before they were released from prison in December 2021, and if the editorial staff of L'Alternative speaks in its statement of decency, it is in relation to the late journalist, co-detainer of Ferdinand Joliga, who died shortly after their release. Did the 2 members of the government, especially pastors, really need to spit on the memory of a fellow journalist for a case in which the media professionals questioned had no real chance to defend themselves, and the fact that, alongside the reactivation of the case of alleged outrage and offensive words against these 2 ministers, another case dating back to 2015, concerning the Lomé-Voguen and Foyne Road, where 3 journalists had accused at the time 2 other ministers of embezzlement, resurfaces, may not be a coincidence, but a well-spent plan by the regime's caciques to silence critical private press journalists. On Wednesday, the 15th of March, 2023, as a result of an expeditious trial, judges of the Court of Grand Instance of Lomé sentenced Ferdinand and Isidore Joel now to 3 years in prison and a fine of 3 million CFA francs. An arrest warrant was also issued against them, since they were absent at the Paradis trial. If only our judges could be as alert to the many crimes of human rights violations accumulated over the decades, ending impunity. If they could stop flattening to the dictatorship regime investigating and judging all these predators of any hair that gravitate around foreign nation-based power, our country Togo would be much better, their honour, as judges, would be safe, and they could finally look their wives and children in the eyes and be proud to have chosen this noble profession that is to defend the poor, widow and orphan. For us, the persecution that is currently based on the critical press in Togo in general is the result of the desire of our leaders to make believe in a democracy, which is merely deceiving, while reinforcing the attributes of a pure and harsh dictatorship. A free press to inform the public allows various trends to be heard, and also empowers leaders, and it is no coincidence that in the best democracies the press is considered a fourth power, After executive, legislative and judicial powers, Ferdinand VIII and Isidore Kauwona are today in exile. Firm prison sentence and arrest warrants against them are null, because they are not criminals, and no state, even in the West African sub-region, is mad enough to arrest and deliver journalists who have done nothing but their business work, to a regime of terror. Does foreign Asanbe ever want to go out through a smaller door? So, the Togolese demand the release of all political prisoners, the return of all political exiles and not the increase in their numbers. Chijobo Youth Germany.